Hi, y'all. This is my lovely wife, Courtney, and
Hi.
I am James Roy, and this is the Noise Date Night Edition, a podcast where we review our weekly date night movie selections. And this week we will be talking about our trip to Greensboro. We'll be covering the first Venom for a little bit, and then what you came for was for us to discuss Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
Yep.
And so to do that, we had to watch the first movie the very same day to make sure we were well educated.
Since we never watched it.
Yeah, and I will say I feel like it was kind of important to see the first movie going into it. Not like uber important, but like I would, if you had time, do it.
Yeah, you have a better appreciation for it.
Because otherwise you're kind of lost on some of the storylines going on.
Agreed.
But let's get into it, starting with Greensboro. So our number one fan, Dylan, the man Kenny,
Shout out to Dylan.
DPK, he had a wedding this weekend.
Mhm.
He married Alyssa. It was a lovely wedding.
Yeah, it was awesome.
We were about 5 seconds away from ruining the bride's walk down the aisle, but luckily we didn't do that, and we showed up just
In our defense, we took the red eye.
Yeah, we got caught up a little bit, taking a rest before the wedding, but no, we rolled up to the valet and we were like, oh no, here it comes.
Yeah, they were like, you just walk there, and we're like, right there where the golf cart is, and the bride about to walk down the aisle. You want us to walk there?
And the whole time we were driving there, we were like 10 minutes away from the wedding, and it started at 4:30, and and we're like, no wedding we've ever been to has started on time, so like
It
we're
was
probably good.
4:37 when we rolled in.
And it was 4:37, and they already had the bride walking down the aisle.
We were like, well, they started on time.
I guess every once in a while a wedding will start on time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good time. Got to hang out with some of my Navy friends, Dylan being one of them. But also there was quite a few people from my from the boat that were at the wedding. It was a good time. Good to hang out
With your sub bros.
And then we hung out, and then we got a little bit of sleep before our 5 a.m. flight back the next morning, which we also really cut close to missing.
It was one of those things where we had set our alarm for like 3:30, and we woke up at 4:20.
Yeah, so
We made it.
We did by by the skin of our teeth.
And
I
then
think
we missed our connecting flight.
well, yeah, because wasn't there a woman with like a health issue on the first flight?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if she was like passed out or if she was passing out, but she was with the little boy, and the little boy was like, I think my mom needs help. And then the flight attendant was like trying to take her pulse, and then she was awake, and then they were like, let's just escort you off the plane to get you checked out.
Let's just make sure.
Yeah. And everyone was just like, what is going on?
No, yeah, but we managed to make it. We did it. But I think also a big part that played into it was the fact that I'm TSA pre-checked, and
Oh my gosh.
and Courtney's not. But
You're so bougie.
as I do with most of my benefits from being in the military, I go, excuse me, but this is my wife. May she come with me?
You did not take that tone with the TSA agent.
That's
but
my wife.
let's be real.
I said, excuse me.
Yeah, it was more or less like a little
my wife's
child
with me. Is there any way that
is it okay if, because we already jumped the whole line?
They still gave her, it's, for those of you doubting the TSA system, they still gave Courtney the full regular check. They just let her jump to the front of the line with me.
No, yeah, for sure. I didn't get to go through the like special one, the special metal detector that you guys get to go through, the one that looks like it detects way less metals than the one that I had to go through.
Well, the one that you go through is the one that blows like wind, right?
Yeah, it's like a whole full body scan.
That's not like a metal detector. That's like a bomb detector. Like if you have a bomb on you, and that thing like puts enough pressure on it to blow it up.
How would I know that? I'm like a normal human being. I don't see that machine and think, the the way that this is blowing wind, it must be a bomb detector.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, babe, but
No, I'm so glad I'm married to you because you can give me the inside scoop on all these machineries that I've always wanted to know about.
Oh, I'm glad that I could be helpful. And what was really helpful was how quick the shuttle got us from the airport LAX to we hopped off the plane at LAX.
I was like, what are you talking
with a dream and a cardigan.
Mm-hmm.
And
he actually does have a cardigan.
I do, but I did not have it on me at the time. We drove all the way back to Marietta.
You have more cardigans than I do.
I only have one. You have to have more than
It's
me.
one more than me. Just kidding.
But we got back home, and after we ate, we watched the Venom movie.
We did.
The first one. And yeah, no lie. The only thing I knew about that movie is that everyone talks about how Tom Hardy just looks awful and doesn't get any better in terms of his appearance. Like,
he does look like just tired the whole time.
No, yeah.
Like dark circles.
Everyone talks about how they're waiting for that moment where he like suddenly like transforms.
Like
and
the
then,
glow
like,
up. Like
it just never happens.
When Chris Evans becomes Captain America.
Yeah, exactly.
When Ryan Reynolds becomes Deadpool.
But we didn't get that. We won't run you through the whole first Venom movie.
When Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man.
No, yeah. In the third one, when Peter Parker becomes Spider Venom Man.
Yeah, he looks rough. That's when I would say looks
Spider
more like,
symbiote dude.
Yeah, the Tom Hardy. But I feel like maybe because he is like an anti-hero, that he's not supposed to look like completely glowy and perfect.
No, I feel that. I think that's
he's like the runt. Like
it's meant to paint that picture.
Yeah.
Well, also he's a guy who was like on top of the world, and he like took a risk and lost his job.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's a big driving factor. But
yeah,
I feel like even in the second one, there's never really a glow up moment. But
no,
I don't really want to harp too much on the first one, but I don't know. I think it's a solid movie. It was also important to note that it was made like just before the renegotiation of the Spider-Man use in the Marvel Universe from Sony, where they managed to get Venom to be included in the MCU. And so with that in mind, the first one's not very into universe building, and the second one I think shifts its focus. But we'll get into that during the review, which I guess we'll get into that right now.
I was gonna say, are you planning like a different time to get into it, or
No, right now, like
Okay.
this very second, like in 3 and 2 and 1.
Okay.
And we're back.
Where did we go?
No, okay, 1 minute.
Continuity, babe. Continuity.
Well, when we have ads, it'll be different.
Here
right.
is where we would play an ad. If you know anyone that's interested in advertising pretty much anything, we'll do it for free. You heard it here first.
All right. So this week we watched Venom, Let There Be Carnage, a movie featuring Tom Hardy, Woody Harrelson as Carnage, Tom Hardy's reprising his role as Venom, and then Michelle Williams plays Anne again. And if you've seen the first one, you know who Anne is, and if you didn't, then you don't. But it's his
the love interest.
Love interest, kind of.
But it's more like the Santa Claus love triangle, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Like the Tim Allen movie, Santa Claus. And
another major actor in it is Naomi Harris, who plays a part that's interesting. But I guess as someone who's a huge fan of Spider-Man, I'm like familiar generally with like Venom, but I told Courtney point blank I'm not like an expert on like this whole symbiote universe stuff. So like I think Venom and Carnage is this stretch of like my characters that I go, oh wow, I've seen them before. But I don't like have an in-depth knowledge on them. But surface level, I thought it was an alright movie. I could see why some people wouldn't have. It was certainly reminiscent of the DC universe in terms of its reliance on just being a superhero movie to draw people in. And I didn't think that they did anything particularly special. It wasn't like a movie that jumped off the page as like, this is revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it earned $90 million in the box office opening weekend.
Okay.
which was more indicative of when it was released. There was nothing else out than anything else.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like one of the only movies that I was like, I actually kind of want to see that.
No, in this next stretch that we have coming up, there's not very many choices to be
Mhm.
made. It's like every week we'll review a movie and you'll be like, yeah, that's the movie I expected them to review. So this was a result of that. I mean, I like superhero movies. I would have gone and seen it even if we weren't reviewing it.
Same.
But like,
And now that it's on the MCU timeline,
exactly, and we'll get more into that after we've issued the spoiler alert, which we'll do after Courtney tells you how she felt about it. How did you feel about the movie?
I
Surface
felt
level.
great.
Felt great. Did you feel?
I think considering
Did you feel dangerous?
I felt like I've never heard the word carnage so much in my life.
I've never heard it so much and seen so little of it in the same stretch. But anyway, to avoid
No, it was great, but I didn't want to see it. But
to avoid spoiling the movie,
no, I thought it was good. Go see it,
I guess we'll step out
especially if you're into the MCU.
and we'll make the spoiler alert now. So
That was the spoiler alert.
this is the
Moving
spoiler
on.
right here. This is it. We'll keep
Moving
it
on.
short. We're moving on now. The plot
No
is going to be
fancy
explained
noises.
right now.
By James.
So Venom is back, and he's doing his thing, just kind of working freelance in writing, and as we see from the leave off of the last one, he's got this thing with Woody Harrelson's character, who is Cletus Cassidy, a known serial killer, and they just don't have enough on him to pin him with the death penalty, so he's just kind of in limbo.
Well, no, because he's in California and there's no death penalty.
They didn't say that because they were gonna, like, he was on death row. I know that they're in California. It's kind of like a lack of plot continuity because, like, technically in real life that wouldn't have been a possibility, but he was on death row in California, which is I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it right now.
Well, no, because they did say that, and at one point later on they said, "Oh, California's going to overturn its death penalty."
I thought that had more to do with the evidence, but I'd have to look back at it. I'm not going to
Okay.
claim to be all knowing there.
I'm just quoting what happened in the movie.
No, yeah, I trust you. I think you probably you tend to catch more like details than I do. I'm like just looking
Thank
at.
you.
Oh, look,
Shout out to Vanguard Film Department.
Like, look, there's Tom Hardy.
You're
But
like, who is this girl? Michelle Williams, one of the biggest actresses of the 90s.
I recognize
No?
her.
Okay.
I just don't know.
Dawson's Creek. All right, keep going.
Well, I never watched
keep
it.
going.
Anyway, so we pick up and Cletus Cassidy wants to speak to Eddie Brock, who is Venom but like human form, Tom Hardy's character, and they have a conversation, and he's the only person that he'll talk to, and he says, "I'll give you everything you want. I just need you to run this headline, so that he doesn't explain himself." He runs the headline. I can't remember exactly what it was. Something cryptic and hard to understand.
Yeah, it's like a haiku.
And then when they're walking out, Venom kind of calls out to Eddie Brock and is like, "Hey, there's some writings on the side of his cell. Those look like we should look into them." Eddie Brock does some investigative journalism with the assist from his symbiote buddy, and they find out where Cletus Cassidy's buried the bodies. And so that's where my impression is that they didn't have enough evidence to actually like go through with anything more serious than jail time. And so he had been holding back where the bodies were, and they found them based on a tip Eddie Brock got. So Eddie Brock never got any more information from Cletus because before their meeting where Cletus was supposed to kind of give him everything, he cracked the code. He figured it out. Jump forward. So their last confrontation, Eddie Brock gets bitten by Cletus because he gets too close. Cletus says something personal to him, and he gets bitten, and Cletus eats the blood, and you kind of get that impression. Oh, okay, something was important there,
like kind of Spider-Man-y,
because the blood like moved like it was symbiotic. And so he's going to get killed. Eddie Brock. They show Eddie Brock's this is his closest thing to a glow up. He gets like a little more money and a little more recognition, and like things start turning up for him. But he has like a confrontation with Venom, and Venom leaves him. They like have an all out duke it out fight where he's like, I'm sick of you. I can't stand this.
Mm-hmm.
You can't eat humans. All this stuff. They're kind of having
Like
a
their
typical
friendship breaks up.
a lover spat, if you will, a romantic falling out.
Mm-hmm. Falling out.
And while that's happening, Cletus Cassidy goes to the chopping block. They hook him up. They're about to inject him with all this blood stuff.
Lethal injections.
They give him the first lethal injection dose, and as it's reaching his bloodstream, suddenly blood starts shooting out of him and attacking it, and he transforms into the character known as Carnage, which is it's the spawn of Venom. It's implied, or at least directly said, that Venom is the father of Carnage,
Mm-hmm.
and that Carnage is derived from him, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Cletus Cassidy breaks out, and he's going about, and so early on in the movie they set this flashback where it talks about Cletus's origins, and he's got this girl that he was with at this one institution, Saint Estes,
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure. And she gets taken away. She's got like this supersonic noise power where she screams, typical stuff. And so he's trying to track her down. She gets moved. They're convinced she's dead, but she was shot in the head by a police officer, but she wasn't killed. He just got her eye. That police officer is the police chief that's like currently working with Eddie Brock on this case. He's wondering where Eddie Brock's getting all this stuff. And so Carnage breaks out and immediately does his research, breaks into a database and figures it out. He talks to Cletus, and they kind of make this deal: you get me what I want, I'll get you what you want, kind of thing. So they go and break her out, and they're gallivanting around, and then I kind of get this feeling in the back of my head. I'm like, they don't mesh now with Carnage there. As we learned in the first movie, it's high level decibel levels of sound, and fire are not the friends of a symbiotic relationship. It tends to split them up. And so the first time they get into a confrontation together, she goes to scream, and it kind of and Carnage goes, if she does that again. So Venom goes through his introspective night out on the town, kind of trying to find himself. I don't know. He's trying to discover life without Eddie Brock, essentially. But it's getting harder and harder to live. He manages to make his way back to the shop that they frequent with the one Asian lady from the first movie, because she's the one that feeds him. And so eventually Eddie Brock's hot on the trail. He's trying to think, what would Venom do? And him and the cop are kind of they're a little bit behind, right? So this whole breakout happens, and they're
he did bring Eddie into question because he was like asking him how he got all that information.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no. And then Eddie sends Anne to go get Venom. So they go to find him. All the while, the Saint Estes thing goes down with Eddie and the police officer. And then Eddie breaks out as Venom. So for the second time in the series, we've seen Anne take on Venom, and in order to bring him to her, bring him to Eddie. He breaks out. They're trying to find Eddie, and in the process, the cop gets taken prisoner. I really wish I could remember his name, but I don't have it on me right now.
Yeah.
And so, the goal here is that Carnage has laid out that he wants Venom. Cletus has laid out that he wants Eddie Brock.
Detective Mulligan.
And the future wife. They're trying to plan a wedding, and Detective Mulligan is the Shrieker's guest. Shriek, I believe, is her name. So they rally them all up at a church, and they use Anne as bait to draw in Eddie and Venom. And that's when you see the scene. I believe it's in the preview where it's like, oh, that's a red one. I can't come out for that. This is worse than we thought it was. And that whole confrontation kind of goes down. And as we see, Venom and Carnage have their fight. All the while, at several points, noise plays a factor. At one point, there's some fire. We didn't really cover. So Anne has a fiance, which is where this love triangle thing kind of starts. And so he's there at that scene. He brings the fire to try and take down Carnage. And it all culminates in the fact that there's a moment where Eddie and Venom kind of realize, they're like, hey, our relationship's symbiotic and theirs is not, because
Mhm.
they're related by blood, is essentially what it comes down to. So they end up having a pursuit scene where they go up to the top, and then they, I want to say, how does the fight scene culminate? I don't. It was very like, oh, okay, cool, that happened.
Yeah, he ends up like just believing in himself and getting up the courage, I guess, to go against Carnage because Carnage seems to be like twice his size.
Yeah,
And
and
then so
so
they start to like fight each other
they like
and
knock the shrieking woman off of the top of the tower, and a
mhm.
bell falls on her, and she can't like shout it
Yeah, she
away.
ends up like killing the detective in the meantime.
She's falling, and she shouts to try and save herself, and like
Mhm.
causes like Carnage to like separate from Cletus, and like there's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It
And
was
then like as the bell's ringing and it lands on her, it is like a lot of noise and so that's how like Cletus and Carnage are separated and
And so then when they're separated,
that's when how Venom can
Venom eats Carnage.
yes.
It's like, yeah,
The irony in that. I
no,
don't
it was
know.
interesting. It was interesting to see. And then, um, in typical anti-hero fashion, Venom kind of like is there. I think that Cletus is like, hear me out, and he just goes, screw this, and he picks up Cletus and just bites his head off.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay,
Okay.
all right,
I think
that's
yeah, because he is a anti-hero and I think that is not really seen throughout
no,
the
that's
movie
like
as much.
it's like you wouldn't see that from like you wouldn't see like that from
Like Captain America.
even the Hulk, as you know the Hulk is. You wouldn't really see that.
Yeah, I think villain there's still like this villainous side to him in a sense.
No, yeah, I feel that. But then you see them. Tom Hardy moves to like Hawaii or something. They're
Mhm.
like on an island, probably Mexico. Who knows? And they're like, yeah, we're out of it. We're away from everything. And the movie kind of ends. And then we get to the mid credit scene. They're chilling on their Mexican getaway. It's not really specified what country they're in,
Could be like the Caribbean.
but they're having a discussion, and Venom's just kind of like, well, my people, the symbiotes and stuff. There's like millions of us, and it's hive knowledge, and the knowledge that I have, your puny brain couldn't even handle. And Tom Hardy's just kind of like, try me,
Mhm.
hit me with it. And in that moment, all of a sudden, everything shakes, and you're like, oh no, Tom Hardy's about to die. But
Is that what you thought?
that's I was like, oh no, he's overloading him. Like I thought they were gonna do like a lighthearted, like you couldn't handle it. Or like I thought it would be weird if they did like from Indiana Jones 5, where like that woman's head blows up. But
I didn't think that at all. I thought, oh, this has to do with some type of shifting in the universe in some way of all the Marvel shows and movies that have come out. That's
probably.
yeah.
So yeah, it hit me as soon as it happened. Right, they all of a sudden they're in a random hotel room that's a lot nicer than the one they were in before, mind you. And you look at the TV, and the news article is running for Spider-Man being a menace, right? From Spider-Man, it was No Way Home, right? No, it was Far From Home. I remember that because Tom Holland said that or Homecoming was away from his house, and Far From Home was right next to where he lives, which was
Hmm.
ironic. And No Way Home's the next one. All right, sorted that out. And so what I got out of it was is that it was them skipping to a different part of the multiverse, which the intro of this whole multiverse thing kind of gives you the hit the exactly the fuel you need to bring a character that hasn't been around into the Marvel universe. Because to this point, you're kind of like, why has Venom not interacted with Spider-Man to this point if he's so like like I don't know, such a chaotic thing going on.
Hmm.
And so the reason, like I said, the first Venom movie took place outside of the MCU. They didn't have the rights to Venom. They made that movie before that became a thing. When that came to fruition, they were already in the phase building for like multiverse stuff. So like you think about all that's happening in like Loki
Hmm.
and WandaVision, all those events happen around the same time with the sacred timeline splitting off. And so as a product of that, it also could have had to do with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange casting that spell from the
Yeah,
preview.
from the preview.
So
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that could have led to them being trapped. But they all, and then this guy walks out of the bathroom and he's like, "What are you doing in my room?" And you're like, "Did he just see Venom?" But Venom went and hid just in time, and Tom Hardy's just kind of like, "I don't really know what I'm doing here." And then it pans to credits. So there's only one mid-credit scene. If you're listening this far and you haven't seen it, just to let you in on that little detail. But that's the plot, very roughly recounted. Some of it was a little foggy for me. I'm gonna be real. This one didn't really like draw me in that much to it, where I was like, oh yeah, like I'm like looking at every detail. The only thing to get into like our more of a discussion of like, favorite moments and like, parts of the movie that stood out to us. The biggest thing that stood out to me was literally that end credit scene.
Mm.
Because I'm all about the Marvel
Yeah,
Universe
because I'm going to
building.
say, you're literally just like saying, how are they going to make this work and how are they going to keep him relevant? And are they keeping him within the universe? And is he still going to be Venom? And is Venom going to be a part of it?
No,
All those
exactly.
questions.
So it was nice to get. It was a very small slither of hope. You're like, not even hope. It's just like, okay,
Confirmation.
confirmation. Venom's in the Marvel Universe, and so that was nice. The rest of it was just
in what
kinda
capacity? We are not sure.
you know what I'm excited to see is Marvel having a heavier hand in the Venom movies, because Marvel's a Venom or Venom is a Marvel character.
Yeah.
And Venom is most certainly in the MCU now, but to this point, the movies have not been being produced by MCU caliber producers.
Will Tom Hardy get a pay raise?
I don't know if he'll get a pay. I mean, he's one of the writers on the Venom movie.
I know,
which is interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he like was a fan of Venom in the comics or something.
He could have been. I think he's well cast for far better than Topher Grace. That's for sure.
Yes, so much far better that I didn't even remember that Topher Grace played Venom.
I was like, Topher Grace played it in Spider-Man 3. She's like, no, he didn't.
Like James Franco when he became the second coming of
Hobgoblin.
Yeah, that one.
Technically, the Hobgoblin, he could have just been Green Goblin too. It's been so long since I've seen those 3 Spider-Man movies.
And then I was like, yeah. And then when Tobey Maguire turns to his like dark side, and he's like, yeah, that's because of Venom. And I'm like, is it?
It's the symbiotic relationship, which once again, I don't have huge knowledge on the symbiote. It makes sense from the perspective of like talking about a symbiotic relationship. That's the only way I can correlate.
It's kind of like, us and the Holy Spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Us and the Holy Spirit.
Like when you accept Jesus into your heart, and the Holy Spirit is the gift that God gave us, right? So that we can have.
Just like how Tom Hardy accepted Venom into his heart, and the gift he was given was.
If you're not saved, now's a good time to.
Venom powers.
Think about your life choices.
Give us a call. We'll talk you through the saving process.
Yeah, for sure. Leave us a comment. Back to the movie, though. My favorite parts, since I think you're going to ask me, I'll just go ahead and say it. I would have to say is I love origin stories. I love like knowing what makes people who they are and events that causes them to act the way that they do. So the whole little origin part of Cletus was pretty much my favorite. His whole like little dark twisted life to lead him up to where he is. I thought that was pretty well done. The graphics are actually pretty good, I would say. Venom is very much like a full character, full person that you can kind of like relate to and sympathize with and empathize with. And I like that aspect because you don't see him all the time. You just kind of like hear his voice. So it's a little weird.
Oh, yeah. And I definitely think that if you made this movie like 5-10 years ago, the CGI wouldn't have been there for it.
It wouldn't have been great. Like the old Batman movies, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And so I feel like in that aspect, I really liked how they just made him like his own person, kind of like the Hulk and, Mark Ruffalo's character.
Yeah, I mean, no, yeah, I feel that.
Because like those are two different people, and you like them both like pretty much equally.
No, yeah, I agree.
And I felt like they kind of established that with this movie, and you like them both equally. I feel like in the first one, I was just kind of like, this is a little weird because he's just talking, and you just don't really like, and like I don't know. You're like, is he good? Is he bad? I don't know. I'm confused. But then in this one, there's so much more like playfulness between Tom Hardy and Venom, and just like the banter back and forth, and just seeing their personalities come out more. I definitely appreciated that as much.
Yeah, and another talking point for me is Woody Harrelson, and he's a great actor, and I think that he did a really good job. The weird thing for me is the setting of like it was like 1996 was when they were in this St. Agnes home, and it looks like the characters cast are like maybe late teens, early 20s, And so then we're led to believe that.
Well, they're teenagers. They're just like orphans, basically.
Well, yeah. So we're led to believe that Woody Harrelson is like 40 to 50 years old, which he's significantly older. He's not significantly, but he's older than that by a stretch.
I mean, in real life, but they did a pretty good job with the makeup.
Yeah, I don't know.
They did make him look in his 50s.
To me, it was
easily.
definitely, the timeline was odd.
Yeah, I do feel like the continuity on that was a little bit off. They could have done a little bit better with that.
But like nothing on Woody Harrelson.
Also, why 1996? That was just so random. Maybe that has something else to do in the MCU.
Well, the other thing could be too is that maybe we're thinking about it the wrong way. Because I know that
Someone
now.
had said they might be introducing X-Men in this way because of.
Well, they probably are. Yeah.
Yeah, she could be from like the X-Men world, and that year could have been something.
Well, the I guess the other thing to it is I believe right now in the MCU on the timeline we are in 2025. So with that in mind, it actually is closer to a 30-year gap.
Okay, well there you go.
So that probably would make it make more sense.
I'd say he definitely did not dress like a 50-year-old in his outfits, though.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, he
just throwing that out there.
He'd been in jail for a significant amount of time.
I know, but like his whole glow up when he got out of jail, because he got a glow up.
It was very much a I can't even say that too. The other thing is that it felt like his look was a product of a generation that he wasn't a part of.
He looked like a Ted Bundy ripoff.
He looked like he was from like the 70s or earlier,
yeah,
but like he probably grew up in the 80s. I don't know. Maybe I'm making too much of it, but
no, I'm with you on that because their dream car was a 60 whatever,
like a 60 something.
Yeah, and
Mustang.
if they're teenagers in 96,
well, I mean that could still be their dream car, but
okay,
the vibe they wouldn't
pushing, be exposed to it as much.
It made me feel like they were meant to be from a different time than they were.
Maybe, well, yeah, and maybe she's older because she could be a mutant of some sort, obviously.
Maybe it could be.
Who knows?
But either way, I'd like to get to our ratings, but before we rate the movie on our scale of 1 to 7, what is everyone saying about it?
1 to 7. Well,
online.
I feel like if you like superhero movies, it's not a bad watch. Users rated it around 6.6 as the average, which is kind of high for superhero movies. I think it's still higher than like what was like the other ones, the Fantastic Four.
Oh, the Fantastic Four.
Things
I can't
like that.
Did very well at all.
Transformers, stuff like that. The Metascore is at a 47, which is kind of low, but it did have like some high ratings for some critics. Some articles liked it. Some people didn't. Like Entertainment Weekly did not like it, but who cares? Guardian didn't like it. So yeah, it's not going to get nominated for like an award, but some users, like, just some of their reviews are just really funny.
Well, I would say it pulled 90 million because of its association with the MCU. But what were some of the negative reviews? I know you like to read those.
I have this thing where I only like to read negative reviews.
I do the same thing when I'm looking at products online, though.
All right, 1 star. Let's see. Desperate Carnage. This is a classic case of a bad sequel. No, this is not good. Pure trash, and I'm not harsh. A complete Scooby-Doo movie. This was just terrible. Too short. Seen before. 0 plot. Hot garbage. Bad. Just like other reviews. Frantic and all over the place. More painful than a root canal. Maybe your plot wasn't too off base, because it was. It was a lot going on. It was like, and then they're doing this, but then on this side they're trying to find this, and then this is happening, and then.
Well, like I said, it reminded me of a DC movie in a lot of ways, and one of them was that when I was recounting the plot, I was like, there was so much going on that like I had trouble sorting out when everything happened.
Yeah.
And so like I wasn't even trying to be super detailed, but I was like thinking of things, and I was like, that happened like 30 minutes prior in the movie, and I'm just now remembering that it did.
Yeah.
So it was something, but
someone said my 6th grade movie project was better. This is more trash from Hollywood. Worst movie ever. Too loud. I don't know.
Too loud? That's not a good review.
You
went to a superhero movie and you said too loud?
The movie is the worst.
It's like
Not
growing up-
available on any streaming platform. Well, there you go, guys. Not available on any streaming platform. They are making you go to the movies to see it.
That person who said it was too loud, they must have brought their kid to the movie. It's like having a kid and going to a rock concert and being like, yeah, I mean, Blink-182 really tore it up, but like they were a little loud, and my child thought, their eardrums were hurting at the end of it. I'm like, okay, you went to go see this, and you thought that it was too loud.
I will say a lot of people were kind of expecting it to be a little bit darker, like a DC movie, because of Venom and his character and who he is and Carnage. But you can't really expect that anymore now that it's bought by the MCU.
Well, they didn't set that tone in the first one.
Exactly.
It was very.
After I saw the first one, I thought
it was consistent with the first one.
I could see how this could fit in the MCU because it is not like a dark, like twisty type movie like Deadpool or any of the DC movies. Just saying.
Oh yeah, but what's your scoring on it on
Out
a scale
of
of
1
to
to
7?
7. I love the scale of 1 to 7.
I know you do. You've said it a lot of times to me personally. She has to me.
Yeah, I
Totally.
talk about it a lot. We just talk about the podcast all day. We just shamelessly plug it anywhere we can.
Like in my introductory forums on my college classes.
Yeah, that's a great place.
I just say I do a podcast
Like
with
my
my wife.
teacher Instagram where I just post my bulletin boards so I don't forget what they look like. Yeah, let's post it there. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 7, I'm gonna go with a 5.5.
Okay. Yeah. No. I would say that my minimum for superhero movies is typically about a 5. For it to rank lower than that, it would have to be truly awful. And that's to preface this because I'm gonna say 5. But I don't want you to think like compared to other like movies outside of the superhero genre, a 5 would be more than it is for this.
Did we give Shang-Chi a 6?
Yeah, I gave Shang-Chi a 6.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So that one was like really good.
It was
There's really on a superhero movie scale, it's like a scale of 1 to 2.
Like Infinity Wars would be a 7 for me.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
Solid.
Just so people know like where we view superhero movies. But
Yeah, exactly.
no, I thought it was good enough where I actually really liked Venom's character. I want to see Venom again in other movies. I like Tom Hardy.
I think he'd fit in the
He's
MCU,
great.
but I think much like the Hulk, his solo movies will probably be far and in between. So
Yeah.
I think there's some.
Is it
similarities
strong
there.
enough to carry its own movie again? I just don't know how much more
Those
of
kind
a
of characters
story
are just
you
hard
could
to do.
have. Yeah, because there's only so much like depth and range with it.
No, yeah, I agree.
And now that he doesn't have a love interest,
It's weird because I think the only reason to have another movie is to revisit that, and maybe like rekindle that romance. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
or like a female Venom somewhere, I don't
Maybe
know.
it could be if they
Who
like had a
knows?
second symbiote.
Symbiote, yeah.
I don't know. But on that note, I guess we'll talk about what we're gonna review next week.
Ooh.
So next week on the show, we will be reviewing the movie No Time to Die, a 007 action shoot 'em up thriller.
Yeah.
And as someone who has not seen not only any of the Daniel Craig movies,
Not
but
even Casino Royale
any James Bond movies at all,
or Skyfall.
this will be me making my first venture into the 007 universe. And as someone named James, I have regularly throughout my life said Bond, James Bond.
Have you?
Yeah, 100%.
In the British accent.
Anytime the topic comes up, that's exactly how I say it.
I've never heard you say that.
That's because I've never had to.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Should we just binge watch all the James Bond movies?
That would be too much. I'd be down to watch like Skyfall or something, or maybe like the Daniel Craig ones. But
That's what I meant. The Daniel Craig
I mean,
ones.
before we watch the Daniel Craig ones, we
Because
obviously
this
have
is
to watch
his
the
last Bond movie.
Yeah, but I mean,
He's not going to be Bond anymore.
what's a higher priority, watching all the Bond movies or watching the season finale of Bachelor in Paradise?
Oh yeah, you're right. BIP.
Been following that for the past
OMG, I'm
several
so
episodes.
excited.
It's gonna
We
be
kind of
so
watch
good.
ours late because,
Yeah, it's already out right now, and we're like
3 hours to devote in one night. It's just really long.
She's on Instagram like, I can't believe these two ended up together, and I'm
Okay.
like, babe,
Okay, well,
babe, we gotta watch it.
I do want to see how it unfolds.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, we've definitely read the
Who's your-
spoilers throughout
who's-
the season.
Before we
so.
leave, who's your favorite couple? Go.
Favorite couple? Oh, definitely Joe and Serena.
Yes, same.
Because like they've
Love
been so
them.
rock steady. Not
Mhm.
even Kendall could break them up.
No.
So
Kendall, I feel bad because I didn't mind Kendall in the past, and I'm just like, get
I
off
felt
my
like she
screen.
was a good fit for Joe in some
I
ways.
feel like Clint Eastwood when he's like, get off my lawn. I'm like,
Well, I think
Get off my screen.
you nailed that relationship because it's like they fit kind of like they had chemistry, but
Yeah.
from like a standpoint of anything else, they kind of were in different, stances on a lot of things.
Yeah, I
They had
just
some
feel like
contradictory
they have
views.
just different lifestyles, and I feel like that's really important to have, especially like in a marriage, because you're with each other all the time.
No, yeah, exactly.
And if you don't have similar lifestyles, it's like, I don't know. I feel like, would you even do your own thing, like separately, like living your life separately? I don't know. That's like kind of weird.
When I'm at
If you're
work
married.
or when I'm around other people, I always say something like, I don't mind contradictory or like contrary viewpoints to mine because it's a good way to sharpen my view and like
Oh yeah,
hear
we
other
definitely
people's
have
sides.
different views on a lot of things.
But at home, it's kind of like I don't want every conversation to be resulting in us having a theological or a super deep debate on
No,
a
yeah,
topic.
I think ethically we're on the same page spiritually, but like
yeah.
politically, we don't always
we don't
see
always
eye to eye
agree and
on every single issue.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's
So
okay.
That's okay, but like every conversation can't be a battlefield. We can't be in a war zone every
But
time
like
we have
our
a talk.
lifestyle of like going to see a movie every week, that's not for everybody.
No, yeah, I agree.
And the fact that you and I both like to do that, that's like,
It's
our
pretty
thing.
nice, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
Joe and Serena, my fave too. I'm excited. Also, I just don't understand how James was there this whole entire time.
I don't know
How did he
either.
make it?
How did he do it?
Yeah,
because
and
he's just a
then-
nice guy.
Is he though?
Well,
I don't know. He's like obsessed with Aaron. Their bromances.
I think that he stayed
V.
around for Aaron.
Weird.
Aaron,
I think
the
that,
dude.
Yeah, I think that they were just like, hey, bro, let's just make a pact and see how far as we can get. Let's just be the last men standing, no, at all costs, bruh.
Oh no. But on that note, I don't think we have to describe the James Bond movie. I feel like everyone kind of knows what they're getting into with that. So
I feel like every one of those movies is the same type of format.
But yeah, no. So if
It'll
you'd
just
like
be interesting to see who like the new Bond girls are. It's supposed to be more diversity, so that's good.
No, yeah, and I think Rami Malek is going to be good. Anna de Armas, I think she was dating Ben Affleck for a while. She's in Knives Out, and she's in that movie. She was, but now Ben Affleck's with J-Lo.
Yeah.
Here's your daily hot gossip part of the podcast.
Are we adding that segment?
Where we spill the tea.
On who?
On the relationship, everything that you already know, or maybe kind of desire to know, but
if you've already signed off because you don't care about reality TV or pop culture, kudos to you.
But yeah. So James Bond this week. Tune in. I have been James Roy, and this has been Courtney, and we've been the Noise Date Night edition.
Mm-hmm.
So like, subscribe, comment wherever you get your podcasts at. And let us know what you think. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, we got it, except for Facebook, because why would we do that? But yeah, let us know what you think. And until next time, keep going to the movies so that you can watch our podcast.
Bye.